In a quiet diner tucked away in a small Georgia town, the lunchtime rush hums with conversation and clinking cutlery. Among the servers is Ava, a black woman in her 30s, moving gracefully between tables with practiced ease. But unlike the others, Ava carries visible scars, deep, jagged reminders of past burns that trace her arms and face. She wears no makeup to hide them, nor sleeves to cover them. She simply does her job, quietly and diligently. At a corner booth, a young couple notices her. They don't whisper softly enough. One teen, eyes narrowed and voice dripping with disgust, mutters loud enough for half the room to hear, "They should keep people like her in the kitchen, not out front." His friend chuckles uncomfortably. Ava, setting down 2 plates, hears it. Her eyes flick briefly toward them, just for a second, before she straightens and walks away. She doesn't respond, doesn't show pain. But in that moment, the weight of judgment hangs in the air. The diners keep eating, but a few glance up. Some pretend not to notice. Others shift uncomfortably. Still, Ava continues her work with quiet dignity. She clears tables, refills coffee, and smiles at the elderly woman in the back who always tips her well. Her scars may mark her skin, but not her spirit. Unseen by most, Ava is fighting a different kind of battle, one of resilience. And although no one knows her story yet, that's about to change. The bell above the door jingles, and in walks a tall, older man with a worn cap that reads, "Vietnam Veteran." His name is Franklin, and though his posture is stiff with age, there's a sharpness in his eyes that hasn't faded. He surveys the diner before choosing a seat in Ava's section, sliding into the booth with the ease of someone who's seen more than his share of roadside cafes. Ava approaches with her notepad, her smile polite but reserved. "Coffee to start?" she asks softly. Franklin nods, barely looking up. Until she places the mug in front of him. That's when he sees it. As she sets the cup down, her sleeve shifts slightly, revealing a faded tattoo on the inside of her wrist. His breath catches. It's not just any tattoo, it's a military unit insignia. One he hasn't seen in years. One he wore himself. His voice trembles as he asks, "Where did you get that ink?" His eyes are fixed on her wrist, his hand hovering above it like it's a relic from a forgotten past. Ava pauses. She doesn't answer right away. Most people never notice the tattoo beneath her scars. But this man isn't just asking, he's remembering. She finally replies, her voice low, guarded. "I served in Iraq. I was with the 11th Battalion. Combat medic." Franklin's hand drops to the table. His eyes well up. He whispers, "That was my unit. 40 years ago." And suddenly, the silence between them holds more than words ever could. A hush settles over their corner of the diner as Franklin leans forward, eyes locked on Ava like he's seeing a ghost from his past. The scars that others mocked just moments ago now seem invisible to him. He sees only the familiar emblem inked into her skin, and what it means. Ava hesitates, then sits across from him, something in her chest loosening for the first time in a long while. Her voice is steady, but laced with pain. "We were on a convoy, hit an IED outside Mosul. I pulled 2 soldiers out before the truck exploded. But I caught the flames." Franklin listens in silence, jaw clenched. He's seen the aftermath of war, the medals, the funerals, the forgotten. But he's never seen anyone carry it like this woman does. "You saved lives," he finally says, voice thick. "I did what I was trained to do," Ava replies, lowering her eyes. "But when I came home, people only saw these." She gestures to her scars. They don't ask about the rest. The diners nearby, once whispering cruelly, are now silent, listening. Franklin slowly reaches out and places his weathered hand over hers. They don't know what strength looks like. Tears brim in Ava's eyes, but she doesn't let them fall. This stranger, this veteran from another war, sees her, not as damaged, not as different, but as a soldier. As family. In that moment, years of shame begin to dissolve, replaced by something powerful and long denied, respect. Franklin rises slowly from the booth, his frame tall and commanding despite the years. The diner, once filled with casual chatter, is now still. Eyes follow him as he turns toward the corner booth where the teens who mocked Ava sit frozen with unease. He lifts his voice, not with anger, but with the calm force of truth. "You mocked a woman for her scars," he says, his voice firm, cracking slightly. "But those scars? They were earned on the battlefield. Saving lives. Risking her own. That tattoo you saw." He points gently toward Ava. "That's the mark of the 11th Battalion. I wore it too. She's a combat medic, and a hero." A hush falls across the room. The teenagers look down, ashamed. The woman who had laughed nervously earlier dabs her eyes with a napkin. A trucker by the counter slowly starts to clap. Another diner joins in. And then another. Soon, the small room is filled with the sound of applause, not loud or theatrical, but sincere. Ava stands behind Franklin, stunned, her hand over her mouth. For years she bore her scars like a burden. Now, for the first time, they feel like something else, a badge. Franklin turns to her and salutes. "You served your country. It's time your country stood for you." Ava blinks back tears. She's still in her uniform, still in the same small-town diner, but suddenly, she feels seen. Not as a scarred woman, but as a warrior. And in this moment, everything changes. The sun is setting as Ava steps out of the diner after her shift, the air warm with the scent of summer. The evening is quiet, but inside her, something feels profoundly different, lighter, freer. She spots Franklin waiting near the curb, leaning on his cane, the same calm look in his eyes. She walks up to him, uncertain what to say. But he speaks first, voice soft and steady. "You know, there are soldiers walking around with medals on their chests, but they've never done what you did. You didn't just serve. You sacrificed." Ava smiles faintly, her shoulders no longer slumped. "Most people just see the damage." He shakes his head. "Then most people need to open their eyes." There's a long pause between them, heavy but healing. Then Franklin adds, "Don't ever cover that tattoo again. It tells a story this country needs to remember. And those scars?" He gently taps his own heart. "They're the proof you kept going." A car drives by. Somewhere in the distance, a flag flutters on a porch. The town is still the same. But to Ava, it all feels different now. She looks down at her wrist, the faded ink, the twisted skin, and instead of shame, she feels pride. Not just for surviving, but for saving others, for standing tall, for never giving up. She nods, deeply. "Thank you, sir." Franklin salutes her once more. "No. Thank you." As Ava walks home under the orange sky, her scars are no longer something to hide, they're the light guiding her forward.